Welcome to TC Tiahui Talks. Chucha Centro Cultural, located on Tataviam land in the northeast San Fernando Valley, is rooted in ancestral knowledge, culture, the arts, literacy, and social justice as a means to personal and communal transformation. It is a place where hearts and minds have united for change for over 19 years. Join us as we share the stories of personal transformation and our understanding of the world that unites us as a community. We must remember that another world has always been possible. Tiahui, a Nahuatl word for adelante, to move forward. Like a spiral, together we move towards a better future, cognizant of the resiliency we carry from our past.
It is recording. Hi, everybody. This is an episode of Tiahui Talks. I'm very excited to have our two guests today. My name is Rebecca. I am a coordinator at the Chuchas. And today we're going to talk a lot about queer identity of Chicana or Latinas. And I just wanted to start off with saying my gender pronouns are she, her, hers. And I identify as a queer Chicana, and I really appreciate our guests today. I think this topic just spoke I can relate to this topic. I'm very excited to talk to y'all to expand, what you found with your research. So if y'all can introduce yourselves and what your gender pronouns are and what program you're coming from, please feel free to do that.
Yeah, I guess I can start. My name's Karen Ugarte. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I just graduated from CSUN from Cal State Northridge and Masters of Social Work program. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having us, Rebecca.
I'll go next. I'm Jessica Saldivar. My pronouns are ella, she, her, and hers. I'm first generation Mexican, and I also graduated from CSUN with my Master's of Social Work, and Karen and I were research partners for our graduate project. And I'm super excited to be here as well. Thank you, Rebecca, for having us.
Thank you. I really appreciate you, both of you. So maybe we can start off by, if y'all want to open up your presentation so we can see what it was and what your findings were and everything.
Our research project, our thesis title was or is Quien Soy Yo, Queer Latinx Women Navigating Identity, Family, and Community. So we got this when we were in the process of, getting approved. We got told that graduate projects must be written in the English language. This policy is completely racist, and we like to acknowledge that as the quote-unquote exception. This thesis became reality through the challenges we experienced in the process of interrupting coloniality within academia, where the existing policies indicated that, our graduate project had to be written in the English language.
Yeah, we felt strongly about keeping our title in Spanish. We had a few reasons. One, that just changing it to English would unintentionally change the meaning and shift away from the intention and purpose of the project. And it was important for us that the title remained in Spanish because we felt it was essential to affirming and validating the voices of queer Latinx women who continue to face institutional barriers, homophobia, racism, sexism, and other isms. Additionally, it almost felt like we were not being honest with our participants, because this was the title that we used to advertise our survey and to get folks to, participate and let us hear their stories. So we felt like that was also an important factor. And we hope our efforts encourage others to navigate through these inherently racist structures and to find empowerment.
And really to help also promote, and hopefully they find opportunities to continue to deconstruct coloniality.
Yeah, and our experience of living out our graduate project and the experiences of our participants are both acts of resistance and resilience. And we're really thankful that we had supportive faculty, professors that really modeled critical consciousness and supported us in this advocacy. And I guess we'll go into it.
Yeah, let's dive into it. So I'll start with lived experience meets research. So, ¿quién soy yo? So I'm a first generation woman on this land now that it's known as the San Fernando Valley. My parents migrated from Mexico, and allowing myself to be authentic in every space I navigate has been truly a personal and political journey. And it's something that I continue to navigate through.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. I also identify as queer. I'm also first gen. I'm the first in my family to go to college, and I come from a single parent household. And just really hearing Jessica describe her passion and her idea for this project was really what got me on board. And what we found a little bit in the literature was that there was a large focus on gay white men and men who have sex with men, but there was a lack of attention to queer women, and more specifically queer women of color. And we want to recognize that not all queer women of color and not all queer Latinx women have the same experience. We know there's multiple forms of oppression due to intersectional identities. We want to recognize, like I said, there's no all-encompassing experience, but there are similarities that we can draw from. And we hope that, and we hope to do that with our study and to promote visibility and connection to foster healing.
Did you have a question, Rebecca? Sorry.
No, I'm just thinking, man, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so our research hypotheses really surrounded these two questions. Does identity negotiation impact well-being? And we kind of described identity negotiation as like code switching or deciding to verbally disclose one's sexual identity or choosing not to. And does the degree of affirmation from family, community influence identity negotiation? So me and Karen hypothesized that LGBTQ plus Latinx women will negotiate their queer identity less when having affirming community and family.
So the way we looked into it was we conducted an exploratory cross-sectional quantitative study. We distributed our survey electronically. It was voluntary. We primarily used social media, although we did post flyers at places like Chucha's. And the survey focused on demographic information, social impacts, aspects of identity. We used an existing scale by Cheek and Briggs. And overall, the survey consisted primarily of 5-point Likert scale questions. And we also had 3 open-ended questions, which I have to say were my favorite part of the study.
Yeah, and Karen, remember we brainstormed using our own lived experience for some of those questions. So we kind of like reflected on our own experience as, queer Latinx women, and we were able to create some of those questions around our experience.
Yeah, that was our process, and it was really cool and insightful, like to get to brainstorm these questions together. And yeah, I think that was also a fun part for me in research. Yeah. So for demographics, so we had over 700 respondents in about 4 weeks at the beginning of this year, January through February approximately. The respondents were from 34 different states, the majority being Western states. And of the over 700 participants, we had a working sample of 459. And these are the folks that completed the survey to its entirety. Most of our participants identified as first-generation Latinx people. And it was really exciting to see how many respondents we got in just 4 weeks. We felt like this really highlighted that there's a need and an openness to be vulnerable and to be heard from this community.
Yeah, and the majority of our participants, their age ranged from 18 to 30. And Karen and I both fall into that category. So that was really interesting to see. I want to point out that this age is often neglected. A lot happens to us during this age, and research shows that there's higher rates of substance use, misuse, mental health impacts, and this age period is a vulnerable one. Sense of belonging, healthy bonds are extremely important.
Sorry. Oh, there we go.
So we just extracted a couple numbers here for our preliminary findings. So we found 89.8% of our participants considered their ethnic background important to them. 50% said religion and spirituality was also important to them. 73.6% agree that feeling a sense of belonging to their community was important, and 63.7% being a part of their family for generations was important, and 94% believe that being their authentic self made them feel empowered.
There we go. Yeah, and related to family, what we found was that 39% of our participants said that they were not out to their parents. 37.2% said that they were not out in their place of worship. 53% were not out to their extended family. 93% said their friends' attitudes towards LGBTQ individuals are positive. 51% stated that their families' attitudes towards LGBT individuals are negative, and 84% of participants reported that they felt safer when public places display LGBTQ symbols. And we also posed questions which allowed participants to elaborate on their identity shifting experiences in other settings, like in education, the workspace, healthcare, and others. We're just not highlighting some of those here today.
So I guess, like, what do these numbers mean? So we looked at the descriptives and we tried to interpret what they meant. So what we see is a large group of people who want to be a part of their family for generations to come, have pride in their authenticity, have spirituality, and perceive their families as rejecting of LGBTQ plus people. And some of them are not out. We ran multiple statistical regressions. It's kind of looking at two questions and seeing if they correlate. So we wanted to focus on today is we saw how spirituality increases among participants when, spirituality increases among participants. They're also able to be more likely out to their family. It's common that, spirituality may continue to align or not align with their family of origins beliefs. So what we can interpret is that one's coming into their own personal values, faith, meaning, and despite the level of affirmation they receive from family and community, they remained empowered to live with authenticity and find purpose, liberation, and meaning through their source of spirituality.
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, some of what I felt was my favorite part of the survey, which was the open-ended questions. Some of the themes we found there were identity shifting, code switching, microaggressions, fears of rejection or lack of acceptance, experiences of racism, sexism, and homophobia. And these are things that we hope to look further into that unfortunately, due to time constraints with this graduate project, we didn't have the opportunity to do. But we wanted to share a couple of responses because we feel like the narratives, los testimonios of our participants are extremely important.
I could start off with reading one. So it says, quote, "The only place people I feel uncomfortable being out with is my family, especially my mother, because she has said some very painful things in the past about queer folks," unquote.
Here's another one. It's, quote, "I am always scanning my environment to immediately determine the risk to my safety and potential for discrimination, end quote.
Quote, I'm the first openly queer member of my immediate family and hope to be a sort of a trailblazer for the younger generations of my family.
Yeah. Quote, I am constantly code switching. It is a survival tactic, and it is what I do to not only survive, but to thrive, end quote.
Quote, it makes me feel ashamed of myself because I actively seek to empower others to be their authentic selves, but I can't bring myself to do it, end quote.
Yeah. Jessica, I don't know if you want us to keep reading this, I guess.
You mean Rebecca?
No, I meant Jessica.
Oh, oh.
I don't know if you want to, I guess we should, right? Because it's...
Yeah, you know what? We read so many pages of testimonials that Karen and I would like sit there, read, and I broke down in some because really like it was a reflection of almost similar things that I was experiencing or that I had experienced. I like to keep reading a couple more and then we can move on.
Yeah.
I'll read one where it says, quote, I'm a mental health clinician. For me, being visible about my identities is important because it gives folks safer spaces to go to that they might generally not have access to, end quote.
I'll read another one. Quote, I definitely have to shrink myself when I go back to visit my family of origin. Although I am out to them, I don't feel like I can be my authentic self, end quote. Yeah.
Kind of lost track. Karen, is there one more that we didn't read?
Yeah, I think there's two more. So, quote, I don't know how to navigate the workspace and the medical field being queer, end quote. And last one is, quote, my faith had a large part to do with it. There are conflicts with that and how I identify. I'm afraid to disappoint my family and those in my church I grew up in, end quote.
We have pages of testimonials, and I really hope that, you know, we're able to look at this closer in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
So what we hoped our research could do, so our implications, we hope our research can serve as a tool that grounds helping professionals working with queer Latinx adults and youth. We like to promote anti-oppressive practices for collective healing. We want to emphasize during the assessment phase to look for healthy connections and familial support, because from what we've learned through Caitlin Ryan's Family Acceptance Project is that when families are rejecting or show rejecting behaviors can severely impact one's health and well-being. We also noticed that, or we read through the research, affirming families and communities are protective factors. We hope healers, helping professionals continue to promote connection and really see their clients and hold space for them. So Brene Brown's definition of connection really grounds our work. We really like what she says. She says connections is the energy that exists between people when they're seen, heard, and valued. When we can give and receive without judgment, it nourishes and strengthens relationships. Those who have a strong sense of love and belonging can have the courage to be imperfect. Overall, our journey has been extremely healing, affirming for Karen and I. We really hope that if there's any participants listening or come across our thesis, we want to say, like, we see you, we hear you.
Te valoramos y somos comunidad.
I wanted to ask you all, kind of related, I think, but I kind of was curious with the what y'all shared with coloniality, and what do you mean by that, and how does that impact your research.
Yeah. Wow. Do you want me to start, Jess?
Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to thank you for asking that, and I want to kind of start off by saying that the whole process to get our name to be what we had originally proposed, as part of the research process is you have to get approved by like the board at your school and things like that. So our title had been approved by all of that, and at the very end was when we were told, like, you got to change it. So that whole process, the last couple weeks of, it was what, like maybe our last 2 months or 6 weeks of graduate school when we were, going through that process. And it was definitely bittersweet to be told that we could keep the title. And it made us think of a couple things. One is, do schools or does education really meet students where they are?
Mm-hmm.
And if a lot of the schools like in the Los Angeles area identify as quote unquote like Hispanic serving institutions, and like what does that really mean, and how are students really, are they being supported through the process, or are they just being admitted into programs? So it really was for us more than just about the name being in Spanish, but about all these other things. And we want to recognize that not all Latinx folks speak Spanish. But for us, it was also a way, like I mentioned before, the way that was how we advertised our survey. So it almost felt like we were being deceitful to then last minute be like, okay, we're calling it something different. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Jessica.
No, I think you hit the points that we had discussed. Yeah, and two, our degree is in Masters of Social Work. Like, so even more, we're being taught to advocate. So we were being critical too. And I really hope that they revisit their policies. They don't just make a quote unquote exception. So yeah.
I think that was the bittersweet for us, was like, okay, we got to keep our name, but like I kind of would have preferred to be told that this policy was going to be reevaluated, or or something along those lines. But that wasn't like the response we got.
Yeah.
It's like, it's messed up. I mean, I'm kind of like, we're not surprised that this happened, because I feel like back when I was in grad school, I'm pretty sure somebody was trying to do their title in Spanish, and it didn't happen because of this restrictions that this ivory tower has. And it just like goes to show like why, like, this is supposed to be research is supposed to advance, like, the knowledge, and they're stuck in like a colonial state. Is like, it's just like, what's the real purpose of it, like having what's the real intention? So I think that's where we see a lot of challenges to where folks like you all, like doing like the work that you did at campus, and people in like ethnic studies departments challenging these forms of thinking. So, and it's really important because we're working with our communities, and colonization has impacted the way we see ourselves and how we treat each other. So like them restricting even that name, is just like, it goes against what we would think that their purpose should be, which is expand the knowledge, and not like confine it into keeping white supremacy like going.
Exactly.
So yeah,
it's all that. And yeah, and in a way too, like I know that Spanish means a lot to Karen and I, but for me it was too like reclaiming, like where we we're also we're feeling the effects, right? The impacts of colonization, but, you know, we're also trying to decolonize our mind, be more critical, and you know, take back too, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think about that a lot when it comes to the ways, let's say maybe our, I know not all of our families, like coming from Latinx families, are like this, but I feel like some, when it comes to like a religious sense or just like being, I think that's where there's like a block of being able to live your authentic self, not just with your children, but like yourself as like a parent. Like what are things that restricted your thinking? And I feel like sometimes, a lot of times, it's like sometimes religion is and you know that religion isn't been imposed to survival. People have to sometimes throughout the years were forced to adopt a religion, like this religion, you know. But I'm just thinking about my own experience and how I feel like that impacted the way my family is, and like pushback when it comes to being able to see somebody authentically and respect their authentic self. So yeah, that's what I thought about when you all were mentioning coloniality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think our research kind of reflected what you're saying. Most of the participants said that their family of origin is religious, and we did like ask further questions on like what religion and stuff like that. But most did say that their families were religious, and then as you saw, more than half of participants said that they were not like their authentic selves to their family of origin, like their extended family and their parents.
Yeah, I do think that plays a role, but I also, you know, how everything became so binary, you know, with colonization. And I always try to interrupt, you know, my family with like, we're always here, is what I say, you know, like we were always here, and we're still gonna be here, and hopefully with more visibility, we're able to be our, you know, feel comfortable and safe to be our authentic selves. And authenticity is a lot that was on my mind when, you know, choosing the topic. Yeah. Just
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then let's see. How do you feel like? I think another thing I guess I want to share real quick is the way the media has portrayed queerness in the mainstream media, and I think this is why it's really important for us to document and like highlight people who have done the work of writing our own stories, our own poems, our own artwork, because like what we see is like our society is a colonial state. White supremacy still is embedded into what it has been like since it started. So I think everything around us, kind of like what you all were organizing with incarceration, that cream conference you did.
Yeah,
We Are Power conference. What was the title of it again?
Oh my.
Carcerality
rules,
everything around us.
Yeah. I think I just think about that, like everything's impacting how sometimes internally, like things that we see ourselves, but also like with our families, like our views of like in different things, not even just sexuality, but gender, and also like the prison system and things like that. And I feel like the mainstream media is a big part of helping with that narrative, you know. So documenting our story is really important. Because I was gonna say with that is because I feel like because I'm when I came out to my mom, she was surprised. And I think similar to Jessica, where you said that we've always been here, it's like, that was a thing too. It's like, I've always been this like queer since I was a kid. And just because I'm femme, you know, I also identify as I felt like I identify as Chicana femme, and I can go into Chicana another day. Why?
Yeah.
But that's a whole different story. But like, that's part of my identity. It's growing up somebody that grew up in a place that has they've had, like, my peers a lot of times would say that they went to KKK meetings. They had this Confederate flag. Like, I went to a high school somewhere like 30 minutes away from where I was supposed to go, and that 30 minutes is like a big change of communities. And I didn't see any queer like anything there. I just saw, like, I think a lot of times I held on to that identity of being proud of being Mexican, because it got me to be proud of myself. And that's just like the intersections of our identities. Like, I didn't have queer like anything around me. So, but yeah, I held on to that really. So I guess I kind of went into my Chicana, why I'm in Chicana, like queer femme Chicana. That's my thing. And I feel like just because I look a certain way, people make assumptions about my sexuality, like, you know. So I just wanted to share that, like, people, like the mass media and the assumptions that people make because of what they view as what a queer is, you know, or yeah. So kind of went off of a tangent.
No, thank you for sharing. When you speak, I also feel, you know, and I really hope that visibility becomes more I don't know, is the word inclusive? Like, there's more representation of, you know, of what, you know, queer Latinx, or, you know, kind of the system, our family system. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's for me too. I feel like I kind of came out like older, like not that long ago, and I always felt it, but, you know, realizing my intersecting truths, and seeing the intersecting similarities, like with you or with Karen and the research, like that made me feel liberated and made me feel like I felt like I was healing. And I just hope that when we continue to have these conversations, or we're, you know, on podcasts like these, people that are listening can also feel a sense of healing and belonging, and, you know, they're not alone. You know, something that we saw in our research is that we're not alone. There's a whole community out there for us. And the importance of place and community and power of relationships. And I need a lot more queer friends.
Yeah.
Really, like, you surround yourself with more people like you know, your chosen family, or it makes me feel like I could be my authentic self. You know, there is hope. Yeah. Kind of went off there too.
We all are good. Yeah, I know that Jessica and I had talked a lot about how this, like, what we're sharing is not necessarily a new concept or a new idea or theory or anything like that. Like, having community fosters healing. We like that, and we hope that our research is just a reminder of that. And we do feel like a lot of the time our society, with things like the media and stuff like that, we forget that. Like, we live in a society where that values like individualism and values like productivity and stuff like that, you know, and we forget that having community, having you know, folks around you, like, that is so important and impacts your well-being in ways that maybe sometimes we don't notice or forget.
Yeah, and the community care, right? I know you said individualism, or individualistic way that we think of ourselves in a society. So having community care, right? Holding space and really feeling a sense of connectedness and belonging. And for me, that impacts, if I feel a sense of belonging, I'm going to feel like I could be my authentic self. And authenticity is really a form of our resistance, right? And I really strive to be that way in every space that I go into. Yeah.
That makes me think about that quote. I can't quote it exactly, but it said something about shrinking yourself. And I'm just thinking about you are expanding. Being authentic is being able to expand and be who you truly are. And that quote, man, I was like, oh, that hit me. I was like, dang, having to shrink yourself is awful.
I know, just thinking of that when you said like shrinking yourself really makes me reflect on how going into this program we had to pick this topic, right? We had to choose our topic the first year, and I really felt like alone. Like I felt alone. I felt like no one was going through what I was going through. I felt that I wanted to be more visible, but I felt like I had to minimize myself with my family because I really, really craved their love and affirmations, right? So I minimized myself, and I felt, well, like, is this just me? Like, cause like, you know, the culture, you know, it's heavy in my family. So I felt like I couldn't, you know, be myself. And I felt like, is there any other person out there? I felt really inauthentic. And that's how I came, like, literally, that's how this topic came up. Like, I was like, I wonder if other people feel like they're being inauthentic to feel their affirming self, like feel the affirmations from their family, their love. And does that impact our well-being? And that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I was not happy. Right, Karen? I'm like, Karen, help me.
So like Jessica mentioned, we had to kind of start to develop these ideas the first year. And when I heard Jessica give her pitch that I think it was like the first week of the second school year, and when I heard her give her speech and be this passionate and feeling like I could connect to what she was saying and that I was feeling the same way or a similar way, like hearing that, it's like I need to ask her if she wants to collaborate. And I don't remember what I had originally thought of writing about, but I knew I wasn't as passionate about it as like hearing her be passionate about it. I was like, oh, this is gonna get me through this research. Like, you know, I had never done research before. I didn't really know what to expect. But I knew that if I could feel passionate about the topic, like that was going to be enough for this to be a good experience. And it was. And I think just hearing Jessica give her speech, I already knew I wasn't alone. There was at least one other person, even in this like very room, you know, that felt the same way.
Wow.
I'm so glad, Karen, you came up to me real quick. And I had always seen Karen. We actually were in the same interview when we were applying, right? Remember, to grad school? We interviewed both to get into the program. And I always saw Karen in my classes with her like pin, her rainbow pin, her pride. And I always felt like I wanted that, but I couldn't come to, you know, like be out but live out, right? And Karen has definitely influenced my growth and the me search and the we search. And I'm just so glad that we've also built a friendship.
So y'all you were like knew each other, but you weren't as close until you got to this research?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I knew Karen, I liked seeing her, but that was it.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, we didn't know each other. But now we do.
That's so cool.
So many hours of of this, and the amount of time we had the survey out was how many weeks, Karen?
I think it was 4, maybe
Like,
like 4.5, something like that.
Yeah. Sorry,
Wait.
it was 4 weeks, but I mean the amount that we had to like
Complete the project?
complete the project was long, but the amount of like analyzing everything was so quick, and then COVID hit, and that was intense.
Yeah, I think our project got approved by like the review board at school like in late December or mid-December. So we were able to release the survey in January, and then with everything happening with COVID, we felt like, you know, our communities have so much other things going on, like we stopped promoting our survey. And but yeah, just in that short time, we, you know, like there still was a lot of folks and from a lot of different places.
Yeah, it was like you said 700 something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Over 700. Yeah, from 34 different states.
That's a lot. I think that just speaks to also the importance of having to do this work, you know. So you took one for the team, you know, with this. So, yeah. I was curious, how was if you had a place, let's say, that helped you with your own, like strengthen your own identity, outside that maybe it helped you with your identity negotiation in other places that weren't as friendly or weren't as affirming. What were those affirming places? Or people that might have inspired you or something?
I could go first because I'll be short. For me, it's been more. My shift has been more through grad school. So these 2 years has been where I've gotten like that source of healing, being able to be my authentic self, seeing those similarities in the research and to the visibility, and knowing that like I'm okay and I want to be more visible and I want to help inspire. And when I speak to heal, and I speak a lot, hablo mucho, but I speak to heal, but I hope people that are listening, it serves them as well as a source.
Yeah.
So to me, it's been the participants and Karen and my partner.
Cool.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Jessica, but I think you helped found something at CSUN that
what?
it's important to bring up.
Oh, oh my God! How did I forget? Yes. So,
oh my God.
I'm so sorry. I get like, I'm a little nervous. So
okay.
I'm nervous. So yeah. So I, along with a couple other cohort mates, friends now, family, we founded Queer Coalition of Social Workers. We felt like even our department as social work as a department, we felt like we couldn't process what we were experiencing in field. And we felt like that we weren't really reflected in the class discussions, you know, queer people. And so we carved a space in our program, and we formed Queer Coalition of Social Workers, where we could, you know, not only be a system of support, but also we're building curriculum for professors, you know, and we also provided out of the classroom educational experiences that surrounded on like queer specific topics. And even my favorite one that we organized was queer social workers and how they navigate the professional space, and how they provide services to clients that are either experiencing an identity journey or their sexuality, or identify as queer or are queer. So that was my favorite. So we provided a lot of out of the classroom educational experience. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was hella healing.
I forget.
Sorry, that was so healing. Because you know what? Like, you're experiencing stuff like you know, like you don't know when to be out or not to be out, so we were able to like unpack that in our among students, that sometimes we didn't feel that I didn't feel as safe to do in a classroom.
Okay.
So that definitely was a source.
Wow.
Thank you, Karen, for putting me on the spot.
No, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think I was listening to you and I was like, I feel like something's missing.
Wait a minute. Oh.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Yeah, and thank you for being a part of that. I think I hope that it's being carried on in the social work department. Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I really hope that non-queer people or like non-Latinx people took something out of that. I really, really hope that they were able to educate themselves and can pass on that information. That was our purpose, right? Oftentimes it's put on us to educate, and I'm okay with that, but they gotta, non-queer, non-LGBT, non-Latinx people could do that, and they don't, and too, like, oftentimes they don't understand what it means to be queer and Latinx. Not everybody in Queer Coalition of Social Workers were Latinx, but just queer as an identity, so hopefully they got something out of it. I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. That's what we're here for. We want to hear your narrative.
I'm stop saying sorry.
We all got, I have to work on that too.
Thank you, Jessica. Rebecca, to your question, I think I had, I guess, two really important people in my life for me. One of them being my older brother. He is gay and he came out long before me. I think he was like in high school or like maybe his last year of middle school. I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but he kind of like paved the way for me. And even then it took me some time to feel I guess safe, or I think the feeling scared didn't go away, even though like I said, like my brother kind of paved the way, and I feel like my mom was a big support to him and to me as well. Sorry, there's an airplane flying over me. I don't know if y'all could hear it. But I found a lot of strength in how my mom like pushed me to be my authentic self. And she did a couple things. I think two of the memories that like stand out are going with me to cut my hair was one of them. Politics of hair. She went with me to cut my hair, and I think one of the things that had been holding me back from cutting my hair was that women with short hair often get stereotyped as being queer. And I think I was kind of afraid of that for some time. And she went with me and she was like, you want to do it, just do it. And, just supporting me through that. And so that was one. And then another was going to a wedding with some friends and family that like I grew up with. And I hadn't necessarily like, called them all up and was like, hey, I'm queer. Like, I never did that. And I was going with my partner to this wedding, and I was like, Mom, I don't know what to tell them. Like, what do I say to them? Like, and she's like, well, just say how it is. Like, say this is your partner. And, well, if they don't take it well, like that's on them. And maybe there's room to talk, and maybe there's not. Depends on where they're at, right? And like just her telling me that, and me like I don't know. I guess I was scared, so I didn't really think like it could be that easy to just be like, this is my partner and let's see what happens. And just like having her support and like her, like kind of pushing me to be authentic with myself, and like those were things that I found like empowering, and yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh man, I'm so glad that both of your within your family that you're affirmed for who and seen for who you are. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you both for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love when you share about your mom. It just gives me so much hope, and I think I'm so glad that you're able to share, and yeah, it's super healing for me.
Go mama.
Yeah.
Sounds badass. Wow.
Thank you, both of you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we're here in this like space, free of judgment, holding space, and we're able to really like witness how resilient, we are, and how we're human, and you share a lot that was in this in our research, Karen, like the safety part, right? We saw that people don't verbally disclose because of safety, or avoid certain places because of safety.
And sometimes that's avoiding, your family of origin for a lot of folks.
A lot of work needs to be done, huh?
I wish y'all could see Karen's hair. It's so on point.
It is. Yeah, your hair is on point.
Oh, thank you.
That's the first. My partner has short hair as well, and I know that I'm not trying to put my dad on the spot, but I know that he's probably made a comment or two, and I'm always like, Dad, like, pero que no, like, the señoras have short hair too?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like, I've known so many señoras, so many tías with short hair. So I'm interested in this. What is it? Politics of hair?
Oh yeah.
Yes, and I think I've mentioned before, but yeah, that whole señoras with short hair, it's like, it's just the way that like women are sexualized, how that changes throughout your lifespan, and like when you're older, I guess, like, people don't care about that. I don't know.
Oh dang,
That is a good point.
That is.
Yeah.
See, Karen is always raising that, critical consciousness. She always has you like on your toes.
For real.
I'm glad that's what we need, right? We need that.
Yeah.
Being critical.
Yeah, being critical, being open to learning, and changing once like new information. Being grounded to where your experiences are, but still open to learn, and I think that's really important.
And unlearn, like Jessica mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Are learning a lot that we were taught, and that it really doesn't serve us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think about like being the which I feel like I've learned this in like I've learned those things about being your authentic self, and being being who you needed when you were younger, kind of thing, like being that like right now. And I learned that from being in queer spaces. So I think that it just seems like, yeah, a lot of the work needs to be done, but a lot of people already have been doing that work of carving out. That's like what you were talking about, Jessica. Carving out that space is so important when it's needed, for sure, all over the place. Yeah, I'm really very thankful when people carve out space, because that opens up the door. Like change happens in different like little bursts all over the place. And it happens every day with how we live and how we carry ourselves, and in that work what we have. So I'm really thankful for like Tia Chuchas and all, like being able to be my authentic self and like develop myself and push myself to being to not holding myself back, to being my true authentic self, you know, too. Yeah. So
it's that community care also, you know.
Community care.
We don't heal in isolation, but in togetherness. And I from what I've seen with the Chuchas, like they're doing that. And hopefully we could do more.
Yeah, we could do more.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like IG handles, and I know that I've always I told Karen, like, I want to continue to do this, like have conversation, hold spaces, co-create spaces. So I don't know, do y'all take like volunteers?
Heck yes, we take volunteers.
With the right person.
The idea of having creating a space maybe where we can just talk about our lived experiences and, you know, Latinx queer women or Latinx queer people.
Yes, that would be. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We can make it happen. Let's make it happen, y'all.
Social hour.
Let's do some brunch, virtual brunch. You know, and everybody has their little brunch, lunch, whatever it's called. I'm gonna say other things, but it's okay. Yeah, social hour. Let's do some kind of social hour and keep carving out the space. Our space is very open to that free carving, like or being our free, like our authentic self. It's just like somebody got to start organizing it. So yeah, definitely I'm excited to keep working with y'all on it. So stay tuned, y'all. We're gonna definitely be building community, have community, setting the environment for that community building for sure.
Yes. Follow Tia Chuchas for them updates.
Follow Tia Chucha, Instagram. We got Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Everything. So like, so again, I guess if you can shout out your handle, so we can, you know, just keep collaborating. What are your Instagram handles again?
Yeah, well, my IG handle is JESSSICA.
Yeah, and mine is KMUGARTE.
But the art, what was the art handle? They need to follow that one.
Oh yeah, artist.
Now I'm worried I might have said it wrong the first time.
Real quick.
Let me double check. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't.
Meanwhile, she's checking. Karen has great art. DM her, support small businesses, even if it's just a shout out. You know, post it on your story. Let people know. Yeah, Karen, you ready for that IG handle?
Thank you, Jessica. I don't know if y'all could tell, but Jessica handled advertising our survey on social media.
Oh, good job, Jessica. Damn, y'all got a lot of people. That's amazing.
Okay, I'm ready. It's ARTE.KMUGARTE.
Okay, that's great. All right. Well, do y'all have any other things you would like to point out before maybe we wrap it up?
For me, I hope people, you know, like Karen has mentioned, if it can inspire one person, I feel like that was a huge message for our research, but also for what I think is that people need to continue to unlearn, educate the folk around them and be mindful of the spaces that they take up. You know, a lot of people don't know what it means to be queer, what it means to be queer and Latinx. And like I said, we shouldn't be the only ones talking about intersectionality and the issues that impact our community. So to me, that is the mission for me. Like, that's what I'm striving for, and to continue to live being authentic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca, for having us today, and Jessica. I think we always have a blast connecting. So thank you. And yeah, I don't know if we have a minute. We'd like to share our dedication.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's hear this.
Yeah, so this work is dedicated to our families for always reassuring us to be our authentic selves, encouraging us to be valiente, and reminding us que somos poderosas. We would like to dedicate this to everyone who supported us throughout our graduate study. Our research could not have been possible without our participants. Thank you, gracias, for being vulnerable, courageous, and sharing your experiences with us. Y a todos navegando a través de los desafíos y rechazos de la vida. You are not alone. We see you, we hear you, te valoramos y somos comunidad.
Eso. Somos comunidad. And hopefully we could all be in a space together, continuing to build that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Thank you both so much again.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up, and I look forward to continuing this dialogue with y'all and continue building and carving out spaces with y'all. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you again for joining us. Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and follow Tia Chuchas on social media. Please support our online bookstore. You can find the links in our podcast bio. Stay safe, stay creative. Tiahui.